guys weren't kidding about the surprising first chapter. Yeah, I don't trust a single character in this book. I'm literally so confused. Hi everyone, it's me. Welcome to today's video. We are doing another reading vlog today, and I'm excited to get into these reads because we are going to be reading some of the Goodreads Choice Awards nominees and winners. I don't know if I have any winners on this list actually, but we definitely have some of the top choice nominees to read. I've been very curious about the books we are going to read together this week, so let's just get into it. I find I get so many good recs from the Goodreads Top Choice Awards because it just usually reminds me of books that I've already had on my radar, but then just gives me the extra push to be like, yeah, you know what, you definitely need to read these books because clearly so many other people loved them. And our first read that we're gonna pick up today is actually Finding Grace by Loretta Rothschild. This is a debut novel, and so this book was actually one of the nominees for the debut author category. And I've heard some really good things. I actually haven't seen a lot of people read this book, but I think from what I've seen, everyone that has read this book has loved it. So this one is a literary fiction. We follow a married couple. I think her name is Honor. Yes, Honor's the wife. They have their daughter Chloe, and they also have their charming, handsome husband Tom. And Honor wants to have another baby, but something happens. Tom makes this decision that I think alters the course of the rest of their lives. Their lives start spinning out of control. Another woman gets involved somehow, I think. The synopsis says, when old love clashes with new, who will be left standing? And apparently this book is part sweeping love story, part a page turner with a lot of moral dilemma in there. So I am all sorts of curious about this book. I've also heard that the first chapter of this book is like a little out there, a little wild. So let's just dive straight into this and see what the first chapter is all about. Weren't kidding about the surprising first chapter. What? Really know how to describe this book to you guys right now. It's very surprising. It's definitely a different type of a book. I haven't read a book like this, and there's not really much I can say because I think this is the type of book that you want to go in fairly blind to. I don't want to spoil anything to anyone because of certain very shocking events that happen in chapter 1. I think you should just step into this book not knowing much, like literally only knowing what the book synopsis says, which is honestly a very vague synopsis. I think it's honestly kind of genius that they did that on purpose, kind of withholding a lot of information from you. I will say though, like from the plot synopsis, they kind of, I don't know, to me I got the idea that this would be a bit of a saucy story, like a little scandalous, and it's definitely not that. But I also don't even know how I would describe the actual genre of this book. Like literary fiction, it's partly like devastating, it's partly heartwarming, it's partly a little bit eerie and a little bit mysterious, and it's partly a love story. There's just so much going on. And I mean, as you guys saw, I literally got so emotional by page 30 in this book. I think it was actually page 28. I started having a breakdown and I was like, this is very early on in this book to feel so connected to these characters. The only other book that has done that to me by page 30 was actually My Friends by Frederick Backman that I read last year. So that's saying something. And yeah, I feel like it's really hard to talk about this book right now without spoiling it for you guys. But I guess all I can say is I like it so far. It's very good. The writing is wonderful. I think it has that perfect balance of describing things in a lot of detail, but also having it not get in the way of the story. In fact, it's actually aiding the story, because there are a lot of descriptors of the things around. Like at the beginning of the story, we're in this very luxurious hotel, so a lot of like the flooring, the walls, the color and material of the furnishings was described in quite a bit of detail, but the way it was described wasn't just random descriptors. All of our descriptions really helped set the mood of the particular scenes that we were in. So like if we were in an angry mood, like all of the furniture and stuff would be described using angry adjectives or like more volatile words. I think the writing is really, really clever, really, really intentional, and I'm just really like enraptured in this book right now. I need to know how this plays out. Chapter 1 was insane, but yeah, gonna keep reading Finding Grace. Literally so confused as to like what to think about this book. So I just finished it. I've literally been sitting here on the floor reading this book all day today, and I just finished it. Did I even tell you what this book is about? I feel like I gave you a quick summary at the beginning of this vlog, but like I didn't even know what this book was about at that point. But just in case it's still unclear. We have Honor, who is a wife and a mother. So she's the wife to Tom and the mother to Chloe. And she's been wanting to have another baby for the longest time, but she's been struggling with infertility, with miscarriages and everything. And so she has decided to try the surrogate method. And while we're in the middle of all of this, at the very beginning of the book in chapter 1, something very shocking happens. And then that just triggers all the other events of the story. And that's all I can say. And now after reading this book, I'm so unsure. There are so many parts to this book that were so good. First of all, the writing overall, I think, was wonderful. As I was mentioning, obviously the beginning of the book was so strong. It made me feel such strong emotions immediately, but I think the story lost me a little bit in the middle. It did start feeling a little bit mundane, I want to say, like at like literally the halfway point up to like the last quarter of the book, and then the last quarter of the book was a little bit crazy. I think this book was just unexpected in all different ways. The plot was unexpected, the genre was unexpected, the twists were unexpected, there were unexpected connections and relationships, romantic and not romantic, and it was just a book that took me on a ride that I did not expect, that I would never have expected. But I don't know if I loved it fully. Like, I loved the beginning. I enjoyed bits of the end. Like, they were very dramatic, but I think the middle was a little bit dull for me, and I think the very ending, I'm not sure that I love how everything concluded. So I think I'm gonna settle at a 3.5 star for Finding Grace. I'm just so confused as to what to think right now. But yeah, that took me for a whirl. I'm glad I read it though. I think it's definitely a worthwhile read. Even though it wasn't my favorite read, I do think some books, even if you don't rate super highly, like I think I would still definitely recommend this book just because of the unexpected journey it took me on. That was Finding Grace. Let's pick up our next read though. I want to read either Wild Dark Shore by Charlotte McConaghy or The Bright Years by Sarah Damoff. I think these are the other two books I'm gonna read in this reading vlog, but I don't know which one I want to pick up first because I want to read both of these equally. Wild Dark Shore is our Fable Book Club pick though for this month, so maybe I'll go with this one next and then I'll do The Bright Years as our third read for this reading vlog. Wild Dark Shore actually won second place in the fiction category for Goodreads Choice Awards, so it's definitely one of like the top reads of 2025. And I feel like this one really suits a winter read just from the synopsis. I think we're set on a cold, isolated island. Is it like in the Arctic or the Antarctic? Yeah, we're set on sheer water, a tiny island not far from Antarctica. So yeah, sounds cold. Sounds a little wintry. And we have one remaining family living on this island, the Salt family. So we have Dominic Salt and his 3 children, and they're the caretakers of this island. One day, a woman mysteriously washes ashore, and while they start nursing Rowan, the woman, back to health, they realize that Rowan's not telling them everything or her intentions of why she was so close to the island. Something in here about sabotaging a seed bank that our Salt family has been working to try and protect on this island. So we'll see how this one goes. I'm not going to dive into it immediately because I think I just need a little bit of a break while trying to process this. But I'll probably start this sometime tonight or this evening. That's gonna be our next read. I feel like today is the perfect mood to read this book because it's like a little gloomy and a little rainy outside, and this book is so stormy that it's really suiting the mood of today very well. But I'm just 30 pages in. I didn't read too much of this last night because I was still trying to process Finding Grace, but so far I am really liking this. The writing is very vivid. There's a lot of imagery, and it's one of those environments that feels really alive. It's kind of reminding me of A River Enchanted in a way, where we're set on this island and we're really just at the whims of the environment. Like, there's a lot of talk about how the ocean is powerful and it's very windy, and as a human you just like, you can't battle the elements, and I feel like it's very similar to A River Enchanted by Rebecca Ross in that way, but obviously it's not a fantasy, it's more real life. And I think immediately, like from the opening line, this book is just a little eerie, a little creepy, not a little, like a lot. And as I'm reading through the story, I don't really trust anyone. I feel like everyone is hiding some sort of a secret, and I'm feeling really paranoid reading through this book. So the mystery side of this book is definitely pulling me in. I'm definitely intrigued. But yeah, I'm only on page 30, so I'm gonna keep reading. But so far the writing is so good. Yeah, I don't trust a single character in this book. I don't trust a single character, maybe the kids, but like, I feel like they're also all a little bit unhinged as well. But the author is doing a really good job of withholding information and just keeping the reader in the dark, where the characters themselves know so much more than the reader, even though we are getting character POVs from everyone on this island, and that's like 5 people. We aren't getting the full, honest, open minds and heads of everyone, so we don't know what they're thinking. And because of that, I don't trust anyone, but that's also making the book so much more intriguing to read. And I'm honestly finding the kid characters, so we're following 2 adults, the dad and then our mysterious woman, and then we're following 3 kids. And I'm finding the kids are more interesting characters to read, at least at this point in the book. I'm about halfway through, but I just feel like the development of the kid characters are more unique than the adult characters. There are 2 of the kid stories that I am particularly intrigued at, but the youngest kid I'm a little mixed on, because on one hand he seems like, you know, he's got interesting things going on, but he's also 9 years old, and I feel like the way his character is written, Charlotte McConaghy is really trying to portray that, you know, these kids had to grow up really quick, they're intelligent and mature and wise beyond their years, but the things that this 9-year-old is saying, I'm like, this doesn't feel like a 9-year-old at all. I think that's one of my biggest critiques of this book at this point so far, is that our 9-year-old will say things like, he called Rowan, our mysterious woman, he called her self-serving, and I'm like, I don't know if I've ever heard a 9-year-old use the term self-serving. So just things like that, I'm like, are you sure we're talking about a 9-year-old here? Those little moments are taking me out of the immersion a little bit. And then also there's like a potential like romance thing that's starting to stir up, which I'm not loving. I feel like it doesn't really fit in this type of a story, because we're exploring so many different things that we have this romance subplot maybe starting to like stir up, and I just don't feel like it's the place for it because we have so many interesting characters. We have such an interesting mystery, like multiple mysteries where I'm like, I don't know what is going on here. We also have some good commentary on climate change and the impacts of humans and the world, and the whole book is feeling very dystopian. It's feeling very end of the world. The inhabitants on this island are sort of guarding our last hope for the world. There are so many interesting things going on that I'm like, why did we need to throw in a romance? And I'm hoping the romance doesn't actually go anywhere, but I am getting more and more and more hints towards that happening. And you know, like, I'm not opposed to a romance subplot. You guys know I love a romance subplot when it's done right and when it fits and it belongs, but I just feel like with all of that going on in this book, why do we need that to happen? So all in all, I am enjoying a lot of this book. I think it is really well done, but there are just a few things with the kid character and the romance where I'm like, maybe those aren't quite necessary. I am whizzing through this book. It is a really quick read because the chapters are also really short. The average chapter length I'm finding is like 3 to 4 pages. So it's really quick moving. You also you don't get that much time to settle into the book, which I think is also purposeful and fits into the whole theme of feeling uncomfortable in the story. You just never have time to settle down. It's always mystery after mystery after mystery. And I find that every chapter almost sort of ends in a question, in a way. Like, not literally, but at the end of every chapter you have something new to think about. And I think that's a good way of keeping a reader going and keeping a reader intrigued at the story. So I'm going to continue reading Wild Dark Shore. I do really, really like it so far. So we'll see where the second half of the story goes. Okay, yeah, this is one of those books that really ties it together at the end. I experienced something similar with Broken Country, where throughout the story, I wasn't sure of where the plot was going. Our characters were making some decisions that I was like, I don't love this, but when you get to the ending of the book, you realize what the whole point of the story was, and you just see how all the pieces fit together. So while there are parts of the story that you might not completely love as individual elements, those things happen in the story for a reason. And the ending of this book definitely was quite intense. I think overall just a very haunting read, really bringing forward the significance of life and conserving life and taking care of the world and respecting the land that you live on. And there were just a lot of different layers of everything throughout different parts of the story. It was also just really interesting seeing these characters and how they felt so isolated and how that isolation changes them, and then also how differently these characters responded to things happening to them because they've been so isolated. Especially near the beginning of the story and kind of all the way through the story, there's this feeling of, should you trust these strangers or should you not trust these strangers? And you have to trust them to a certain extent when they're the only people around. You're literally isolated on an island with these people, so there are things you need to rely on each other for, but then at the same time it's but you don't actually know who this person is, and that carried on as a theme throughout the whole book. So I think this was a really good read. I think I'm gonna give it a 4-star. I think it was so strong in some ways. There are still things around the middle of the story that I didn't really love, but I think, yeah, overall I see the vision of what Charlotte McConaghy was trying to do here. So I'm gonna give Wild Dark Shore a 4-star, which means we're gonna pick up our third book. And the sky just got really dark outside. It's full gray, fast moving clouds right now. So hopefully we get out of this storm soon, but I'm gonna pick up The Bright Years by Sarah Damoff next. This one, I'm gonna double check, but this one was nominated for 2 different categories. So The Bright Years was a nominee for historical fiction, and it also got 4th place in debut novel. So 2 different categories for the Goodreads Choice Awards, so I'm trusting that this is gonna be a really good read. I'm kind of stepping into this one a little bit blind. All I know is that this is a multi-generational story where we follow various characters from this one family. I think one of the characters is an alcoholic. So I'm just gonna dive into this one, and I'll probably give you a better plot synopsis when I get actually a little bit into it. But I'm excited to read this one. I've heard really, really good things. it's the weekend. Today's gonna be filled with chores, but I am hoping to squeeze in some reading today, obviously. I only really just nibbled at the Bright Years yesterday. I'm not far in at all, but what I can tell you now about the synopsis is we follow Ryan and Lillian, and they have fallen in love. We really went through their love story quite quickly at the beginning of them meeting each other, getting together, and all of that. But Ryan is holding a secret. He is actually an alcoholic, and Lillian also has a secret. She has a son that she has never told him about. So both of them are holding these secrets, and I think from this point onwards, we're going to expand through the generations and see how these family traumas propagate, I guess, through generations, and we'll just see how this family develops over time, I think. But overall, so far, so good. The writing in this one is definitely more simple than both Finding Grace and Wild Dark Shore. Wild Dark Shore was one of the most descriptive, vivid imagery books that I've read in a long time, and Finding Grace was kind of like in the middle, like halfway there, and I feel like The Bright Years is the simplest writing that we've read in this reading vlog, but that's not a bad thing. I'm finding the writing is flowing very smoothly and it's very effective in telling the story, so it's just like less haunting, but I do really like the writing. I don't think it's weaker in any way, it's just a different style. But yeah, I currently have laundry in, so I'm just gonna read while I wait for my laundry to finish. I just started feeling sad. I'm around page 100 now, and I feel like the story overall so far has been a very good pace, I think, for a type of fiction like this. We've been jumping back and forth throughout the years. We've been getting little snapshots, little glimpses of our characters' lives. There's Sage's on my lap right here. It's been quite an evenly paced story, and I have felt slight emotions while reading up to this point, but I feel like we just hit a point right now where I'm like, I'm starting to feel the full magnitude of our characters and the relationships with each other, and how you can still love someone who isn't quite present in your life anymore and is somewhat estranged, and you know, like things didn't work out the way they should have or the way you wanted them to, but you still love this person anyways, and you can't love them the same way you used to, but you know, it's like they're still going to be a part of your life, they're still going to be there, and like what can you do to show that you still care but also keep up your boundaries and realize like what's good for you and what's not good for you. Those are all the feelings that are whizzing in my head, but I'm really liking this now that we're at the 100-page mark. I also think just like the author is doing such a good job at choosing what moments to show us, because this is not a long book at all. I think it's under 300 pages, and we have semi-quick chapters, I would say. They're not long chapters, and we do jump back and forth quite a bit. Like we spend one moment with our characters, and then we jump, and then we spend another moment with them, and then we jump again, whether it's back or forth in the year. So we don't get like day-to-day like long moments with them, but the moments that are chosen, that are shown to us, I feel like are chosen so well. Sarah Damoff is just very smart, I think, at choosing which moments to show us in detail, because I'm rambling now, but it also doesn't feel like we're getting just a montage of this family and their relationships and moments with each other. It does feel like we are getting these really detailed, intimate moments with them, but it's just like the few that we are being shown in detail are very powerful and are very intentional. Yeah, I really like this so far. I fear I'm gonna get even more sad as I continue to read this, but I'm gonna continue reading. We'll see if it gets more emotional or not. Okay, it is indeed dark out. I've just been sitting on this couch. My two cats are still on me, and I just finished The Bright Years. I thought this was beautifully done. It was very wonderful, filled with so many full circle moments as a big picture, like a big picture full circle moments, but also so much attention to the details and so many full circle moments just within small moments, small things that came back around. And it was so beautiful. It's raw, it's tender, it's not perfect. It's not pretty, but at the same time, it's beautiful. You know what I mean? Yeah, I really, really like this book. It's definitely my favorite out of the 3 that I read in this reading vlog. It's also just historical fiction done in the way that I like historical fiction. It doesn't feel like textbook, you know? You're not just learning about historical facts as you go on. In fact, the story I don't think is about the history that much. The history is just there as a backdrop as we follow this family through generations, through decades, as the world changes, but it's not about the world. It's about the humans that are living in this world and how the times are changing. I think there are a few things in the last bit that I wanted wrapped up a little bit tighter, but all in all, I think The Bright Years was a stunning read. I'm gonna give this one a 4.25. I think it was absolutely beautiful. That being said, I'm going to finally get up off of this couch and move my legs and do something. But I had so much fun this week reading some of these Goodreads Top Choice Awards nominees with you guys. So that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave me a like and a comment. If you don't know what to comment down below, let me know if you've read any of these Goodreads Top Choice Award nominees or winners, and let me know what you thought of them. If you like me, subscribe, do that bell thing, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!